On this episode of the Naturist Living Show, a couple of nudist characters.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show is brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. At Bear Oaks, we offer traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Free your body, free your mind. www.bearoaks.ca.
Welcome, dear listener, to episode 125 of the Naturist Living Show. My name is Stéphane Deschênes, and I'm your host for the podcast and the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. And today's show is brought to you by the very generous contributions of John W., Joe Gira, Alejandro A., Bill B., Nude Lease on Life, and Mario G. So sorry if I'm trying to pronounce the names right, but in some cases, I am reading exactly what has been written as the contributor name, as in the case of Joe Gira, which might be two names, which might be Joe Gira, but it's written as one word. So I'm just guessing. And where I have two names, as I said in the beginning, I'm only doing first name and last name. But thank you. Thank you to all of you for your contribution. Thank you to everybody who's contributing. It's very exciting to see Patron growing, particularly exciting for Samantha because it's supporting her. She loves what she's doing. But unlike me, this is early in her career, and this is a job that means a lot to her, and she needs to earn some money. So please keep supporting us. We really appreciate it. Folks who've been listening for a while might recall that I had lost a bunch of interviews that Tim Chizmar had done in switching between phones, and then found them because they were there. They were just named after an address, which is very strange. So these two interviews that are in this particular episode are the last ones, the last of the lost interviews from Tim Chizmar. So, with great apologies to Tim for having taken so long to put these out there, but this catches us up, and he's working on several other interviews, and we've talked. He's got great ideas. So it's wonderful to have a correspondent on the West Coast, and we all appreciate his contribution to the show. So this one is called, I called it Nudist Characters. And the reason is we're putting two short, fairly short interviews that really are not that related to each other than they both are characters. One, the first one, Trista, is plays characters. She's an actor. And so she's literally a person who does characters and, a bit of a character herself in a good way. And the second one, Rocky, is also very much of a character, as you'll hear. So there's no point in really talking much more about them. I don't know them very much. These are folks that Tim knows on the West Coast, and he interviewed. So let's start with Trista.
It's me, it's him, it's TIM here once again for the Naturist Living Podcast. I am Tim Chizmar on location in beautiful southern sunny California, and I can't go through California without stopping to talk, because as you know, there are actors and actresses everywhere. I mean, you just accidentally bump into them, like everywhere you go. So I had to stop in and say hi to one of my favorite actresses, and I was aware of her by a dear friend of mine directed a movie that he wrote called Purgatory Road, and she is the lead girl in it. This Trista Robinson. She's fantastic and cool and exciting, and I am a really big fan, and you will be too. So I am sitting down to talk with her because some of the issues that she dealt with in her role directly fall into the community that the podcast is based around. So, Trista Robinson, thanks for sitting down and having a coffee with me.
Oh gosh, thank you. How do I How do I say thank you for all the nice things you just said? Thank you.
It's just facts. It's factual. So, Trista, there's so much to dive into. Let's start at the beginning. It seems like a good place to start. So, did you grow up in California? Do you come from a family that's involved in the industry? Acting, performing?
I am not from California. I'm from New York. My aunt was a stage actress in Pittsburgh, but I grew up in New York, so not with her. But I did live with her for a year, and I started doing theater with her, and she started drilling me on monologues. And I really credit her with sort of sparking my interest.
Interesting. Now, so did you go to college for theater? Did you study acting?
I went to a conservatory in New York after I lived with my aunt, and I did study acting. But as you know, I do predominantly horror, and I wasn't really comfortable sharing my love of horror in that environment because people didn't really take it seriously. So I didn't really find my horror community until I came out to LA.
Well, let me ask you about that. So did you have so it's not something you fell into. It's not like you just got typecast as the horror girl, like on your own. You're a fan of horror, yes? Or?
I feel like it's a combination of both things. And I've talked to other actresses, specifically Jess Cameron, who had the same experience. So yes, I loved horror. I grew up watching horror with my dad. My dad's a huge horror fan, and I had a single dad for a long time, so that was what we did. But I sort of stifled that and wanted to act, and then when I moved out here, I started booking horror coincidentally, and then I felt more comfortable and more passionate about it. So it's all sort of fateful.
Let me ask you this. One of the things, because I work with horror movies and Full Moon, Asylum, and Chiller, and all that stuff, Trauma, as well. One of the complaints a lot of my actress friends have about horror movies is they feel like the women's roles fall into two categories: either the angel, so like the virgin girl who will last to the end, or the whore, the slut. Do you feel like it's polarizing, or do you feel like there are more roles that are in between nowadays, or is that still an issue?
I think it's getting way better. There's so much content. There's so much talent. Did you see The Ranger?
No.
Jen Wexler's The Ranger. I recommend that. It's a very different kind of final girl. But so yeah, for me, the work that I am fortunate enough to do, because I have such talented friends that are filmmakers, they're very complex women. And so I don't find myself falling into that trap. I feel very satisfied and very lucky and very daunted by the roles that I'm able to take on.
Well, speaking of roles, the one I was introduced to you, and the one that was the idea for me to sit down and talk with you today, is in Purgatory Road. You play a very mixed up. Killer, like a crazy girl, and as part of it, she uses her sexuality, or it's how she gets her rocks off by seducing people and then killing them, kind of a succumbus. And there's a sexual component and a nudity component to the role. What was that like for you to agree to take on that kind of a role? And had you had other roles similar that prepared you for it?
That is such a great question, because it really was quite an issue for me. I had always said that I would not do nudity, and not that I was judgmental.
Wow.
Yeah, not that I was judgmental about it, because obviously I have lots of artist friends, and I am super supportive of what anyone decides to do with their own body. But for me, I always thought, it's not something I'm comfortable with. It's not right for me. So that was something I had stuck with. And I think it's because when I was a kid and I first started showing an interest in acting, my dad said he would support it as long as I didn't do any nudity. So, and I promised him that I wouldn't. So, fast forward to Purgatory Road. Mark is a very good friend of mine, someone I trust very much and I respect very much as an artist and a person. And he offers me this script, and I fall in love with it. And then he tells me about this scene. And my initial reaction is like, oh, how devastating for me. I was so attached and I can't do it.
So you felt like it was a deal breaker?
I did, absolutely. Because I had promised my dad all these years ago. And Mark was so sweet about it because he didn't want to compromise his vision. And he wanted me for the role. And he was... actually remember Mark said, I said, look... I have to talk to my dad, and then I can feel better about accepting the role if my dad is okay with it. And I remember he said, that makes me respect you even more. And it was so sweet because I was so nervous to tell Mark I might not do this. And I was so nervous to tell my dad, basically I might renege on our agreement. But my dad had some questions, and Mark was more than willing to answer any of those questions, and I felt very appeased by Mark.
Did Mark talk to your dad?
No, but...
It's so weird. It's like like trying to date the girl. Like her dad comes out and like, what are your plans with my daughter?
But all of the questions my dad had, I think he was just concerned for my safety. And at this point, I had...
Like safety on set or safety with stalkers who would watch the film?
I think it was more like when I first got into acting, my dad wanted to make sure I was making good choices. And I started so young. So by the time...
Did you start when you were a little baby?
Yeah, little tiny baby.
As opposed to the big babies.
Which sounds very inappropriate, but we had a conversation. Anyway, so I think my dad was just concerned. But at this point, I'm an adult. I have a body of work that I feel passionately about. So it's kind of just a different conversation. I think for me, I was getting to make a whole character, and I didn't feel like I was just showing up one day or being exploited or I don't know. So anyway, my dad assured me that, he trusted my judgment, which felt very special. I answered his questions, and then I was able to accept the role with in good conscience and be excited about it. But I was still very nervous about that scene. So nervous. Mm-hmm. And then, to be honest, I loved it.
Now, how does it affect roles moving forward? Does that mean that now you're open to looking at nudity in other films? Or is that something that how does it affect you moving beyond?
I think I will make decisions on that the same way I consider other things regarding projects. Like, is this an interesting character? Am I gonna learn a lot? Is it challenging? Does it excite me? Does it align with what I want to do artistically? So I don't see it as a deal breaker or any sort of stigma. It's just whether or not it will spark me artistically. It's just another way of telling a story.
Okay, well that's cool. That's now. What about do you do theater as well? I mean, because when you do a film project, it's something that is diced and cut up from different angles and different coverage. But if you were to do a theater performance, like if you were doing a run of shows for a month and there was nudity involved, how do you think that would compare?
I have done plenty of theater. I'm not doing theater right now. Like I mentioned earlier before we started the podcast, I have a few films, so I'm not doing any theater at the moment, but I love theater. I have not done any theater where I personally am nude, but I have played a prostitute in a show that ran for a while and was very scantily clad, and my dad came to see that as well.
You know, that's really interesting because, you know, playing a prostitute, and there could be like implied sexual things, like for example, if you went under a table to give a guy a hinted at blowjob,
right,
versus being nude in a non-sexual fashion. You know, it's interesting that, like, for example, your dad, would he have more issues with the sexual connotation to you but no nudity, or you being nude but it's not sexual at all?
That's such a good question. I don't know that I feel comfortable, like, getting that specific with my dad. Like, Dad, would it make you uncomfortable if you saw me, like, give a guy a fake blowjob? Like, I don't know. That's not a conversation I'm eager to have.
Right. I don't mean specifically with him. I just, it's an interesting topic about, you know, how we, as a society, just somebody being naked, how it's immediately, we want to add some kind of, like, sexual thing to it. You know, like, if you're not naked to shower or have sex, well, then it must be, you know, sexual based. And it's interesting. I'm just wondering, like, if you had a scene, if I handed you two scripts right now, and one was the script for you playing a prostitute where there was some implied sexual stuff, and the other one was a really good script, but there's a scene where you're naked playing volleyball with your best friend. Which one do you think it would be hard? And it seems like the naked playing volleyball would be harder, right? Even though it's not sex-believed.
I think my honest answer to that question, and this might be because I'm a little sheltered in that I work with people I know a lot. I have a lot of filmmaker friends, and a lot of times my work comes from people that write stuff for me. So if I looked at those two scripts, I would think, who's making them? How comfortable am I with them? Because that's where it came down to with Mark. For that scene, I was like...
So if it was the same script but a different person shooting it, you might not have taken it.
Yeah. But that's so tricky, because if it was a different person, that script is so Mark. So, like, I can't even imagine that project coming from a different person. You know what I mean? So it's a combination of, like, oh, Mark is running this ship. I trust him and admire him. And, like, this script is so good because it has Mark's fingerprints all over it. Like, that is exciting to me as an artist.
Interesting. Now, what about, I mean, just you and I hanging out in the last hour or so, some of the things we've talked about here in Southern California, there's nude resorts, there's nude beaches, there's naked bike rides, there's naked runs, there's the Bear Burrow where people run for, you know, miles naked. Are you aware of the nudist community? Were you aware that these things were right in this area?
I was in no way aware of the community. I have worked with people that I was also aware are nudists, and they've all been lovely people, and I always thought it was interesting. I don't know much about it. What's interesting is that a big part of my decisions for Mary Frances in Purgatory Road, I couldn't wrap my mind around, like, how to humanize this serial killer. So what I sort of decided was that she has these intimacy issues, and then she kills people so that she can be close to them without feeling fear. And then it became like a beautiful thing, and that was my way inside of her. And all of these issues with nudity that you're bringing up, I feel like, you know, me doing that scene where I had to be partially nude, I had some walls against that, I had some fears against that. And I feel like the more I learn and open my mind and become more comfortable with myself, the more things like that are interesting to me.
You know, it's intriguing that you mentioned that, because you were top free in the scene, which for a male actor, that wouldn't even be nudity. Isn't that interesting that, you know, as far as, you know, free the nipple and nipple freedom, and, like, you know, a guy being topless is legal and not even an issue, but a woman being topless is suddenly a big deal? That doesn't seem right. It
is very interesting, and, you know, I love art, so when you go to museums, like, there's naked women all over, and it's not unappealing. It's beautiful.
Well, let me ask you this. We talked about horror. You come off like you would have a great sensibility for comedy. You know, you're very, when you get the slightest bit shy, your cheeks go rosy red, and you just have you dabbled in stand up much at all, or like comedy? Because I imagine you would really flourish at comedy roles.
That's so nice. People say that to me quite often. I think
quirky. You come across as quirky.
Yeah, people are surprised that I do horror, I think, when they meet me in person. I don't know. I find I'm comfortable acting because I'm not as comfortable just being myself. I think that's very brave, to just stand on a stage and be yourself without a character to hide behind.
Would you like to take on more comedic? Well, let me ask you this: what's the dream role? What is something you haven't played that you would like to sink your teeth into?
Well, I should preface this by saying that I do comedy. I do a lot of other things besides horror. I do commercials, I do print, I do theater. I've done a ton of comedy. My heart is in horror, and I do a lot of horror, but I do all kinds of things. I've done plenty of comedy. As far as doing something, what I'd like to do, a dream role, I did mention right now I'm shooting a Western, so that's a bit of a dream role just because it's so different from anything I've ever done, and it's very challenging. I had a dream the other day that I was playing like a young disabled man, and that's so different from who I am that I woke up thinking like, wow, I wish I could get cast as that role. So I think no matter what I'm doing, my dream role really is to do something completely different. And I've had that opportunity. I played a deaf woman, I played a serial killer, now I'm playing this cowgirl in the 1800s. And that's really all I want to do, is just continue to do different things.
What about the transition from indie darling to more mainstream? Would you want to be on a regular television show?
It's such an interesting question because I have a lot of friends that is their dream. My dream is to continue to do good work. And there are so many good shows now that, as long as something is sparking my passion, and interesting and creative and exciting, I'd be open to any medium.
Because you got to be careful. In Hollywood, with a lot of my friends, there's this thing where people are always chasing after happiness, and they're never happy with what they have. So somebody will, for example, my comedy friends will say, I wish I could be on a sitcom, and then they'll get a guest on a sitcom. Yeah, but I'm not a regular. And then they get a regular. Well, I need to have my own sitcom. Well, I had a sitcom and it only lasted one season. I need to go over 3 to go into syndication. Or I'm only the sitcom person. I haven't had a movie. Oh, I had a movie, but it wasn't successful. I've had a movie, but I haven't won an award. And it's like they're never ever happy.
Oh yeah, the one thing about doing indie films, I think, is that, and Mark is the same way, we do it for the right reasons, because it's not like there's enough money or glamour that we're really invested in what we do, and we make a lot of sacrifices. So I'm not trying to get famous, as not that that's a bad motivation, but it's really not my goal. My goal is to do good work.
That's so cool.
Well, as an actor, I think it's very handy to be invisible.
Who said that? Who just said that right now? Who? Oh, there you are. Oh.
I won't throw your phone on the ground.
So, is there any chance they're going to run into Trista Robinson at a nude resort or a nude beach in your lifetime? Are you ever going to go and check anything like that out?
I don't know. You've piqued my interest. now it sounds exciting.
So before we continue with the next interview with Rocky, just a reminder, if you're not supporting us already, we'd really appreciate it if you went to patreon.com/naturist-living-show. It has to be, you have to type it in, unfortunately, because searching will not find us, because we are marked as, what do they call it? I don't know, sensitive content, adult content, something like that. We have to mark that. Otherwise, if we might show a woman's nipple or anything or a bum, we might get kicked out, and we don't want to do that. So we marked it that way, and that frees us to put some content just for subscribers without worrying about nudity. We shouldn't have to, but we all know that's the reality. So patreon.com/naturist-living-show. We really appreciate your contribution. If you're already supporting us, you don't have to support us. The show will continue to be freely available because we want to spread the word. But if you can support us, specifically the money, none of the money comes to me. It's all going to support the show and mostly going to Samantha so that she can do a lot of the work, which will help us increase the frequency and the quality of what we're producing. So without further ado, then, let's continue with the interview with Rocky.
Hello, Rocky.
Hi, Tim.
Well, we are driving. What freeway is this?
This is the 5 freeway from Orange County to LA.
So let's talk a little bit about you. Rocky, how did you get started in the world of nudism?
My nudism story is one of my favorite stories. Before I knew I was a nudist, and the moment it happened will be burned in my brain forever. I was 18, appropriately, by default, I guess. And it was raining. We had like a 2-week rainstorm, and I worked outside at the time at night. It was a night position, and it just rained it just did not stop raining. And one night it was particularly wet, and I went to the parking lot to get in my car, and it was like I had jumped in a pool. And I looked around, there was nobody around, it was dark. I was getting in my car, and I'm an 18-year-old young attractive female at the time, apparently naive because it didn't bother me at all. And I just started taking off my wet clothes, and of course I didn't expect to be wet, so I didn't have any other clothes. I didn't even think about it. And I had bra and panties on at the time, but it was the first time I had been without any kind of clothing. And I drove home, which isn't technically naked, but it was the first liberating moment in my mind that I realized I could do this all the time. All the time.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned 18. So, as a kid, I mean, what are your thoughts about some of these children who grow up in the nudist environment? Because I know you work with the American Family Nudist Association, Michael Beals' organization. Do you wish you had been introduced to it as a kid? Do you think there are benefits to it for kids, or no?
So I love that question because I had mentioned I was 18 just because it was default. The job I had at the time, I had to be 18 to have that job. I don't think that the situation would have gone any different if I had been any other age. I think that if I had discovered nudism earlier, then I would have just done things naked alone or whatever. But the topic of the issue with children and nudism is super delicate. Some people think that sexuality begins early, and you don't take kids into the opposite restrooms and those kind of things. I believe, personally, my personal opinion is to introduce children to a lot of different things and let them decide later. Of course, in our society, you have to wear clothes to to leave the house, to do anything. So you would make sure that children know that you have to. It's so delicate because you can't have them touching other people either. But you have to teach and educate your kids if you want to introduce unconventional ideas early, I think, because but all kids, they learn from you. They learn from the people around them, the environment, their parents, and things like that. So if you're just naked and you're not telling them, the history of nudism and why we're nude, and naturism, and being natural, and being in touch with the earth, and being one with nature, and all of the things that are important to you, your values as a nudist, then you're not educating them. You're just telling them it's okay to be naked outside.
Well, the reason I asked is I didn't grow up in a nudist family, but God, I wish I had. I look at a lot of these families and these kids, and I think, gosh, it would have been great, because it wasn't until I got to college that I personally discovered it. Let me ask you this, because you did talk about the bra and panties ride. When did you experience social nudism for the first time? When were you naked in public?
That might have been the naked bike ride. That might have been like the first public, outspoken, I'm in the middle of the city riding a bike naked. That might have been the first time.
What city was that? Was that in Los Angeles?
Yeah, Los Angeles. LA Naked World Naked Bike Ride.
How many years ago was that?
That was a long time ago. God. It had to be 6 or 7 years ago.
All right. Well, that actually is a great transition into a question I wanted to ask you, because I know for a fact that you go to nude beaches like, Black's Beach, and we'll discuss if you've been to Baker Beach or San Onofre or some of these other ones. But I know you love nude beaches. I know you've done naked bike rides. How does that compare or contrast to nude for pay, such as resorts, cruise ships? What's your experience? What are your thoughts?
Anytime you have an activity that is taboo or restricted to adults only, that kind of thing, and you have to compare the paid versus free events, you're gonna have a differentiation of quality. You're gonna have lookers in the free events. You're gonna have people who are curious and they're kind of just gawking. You're gonna have like hecklers or people who come just to break it up or just to talk shit about it. And paid events, you're going to have people who show up. They're there because they love it. They're there because that's what they signed up for, and they want to be there as a participant. And you'll find more open-mindedness at that kind of thing, or also experience.
So what about you? Have you been to many resorts?
I've been to FA. So I've just been to the one nudist resort.
So you have not been to, say, Glen Eden or Olive Del Ranch or Deanza. You live in Southern California and you haven't been to a nude resort?
I've been to FA. I haven't been to the other ones. No, and it's hard just because of the distance. It's hard for me just the distance, and then also it's not something you go alone as a single female. Anyways, a lot of times you wouldn't just go by yourself. So it's hard.
What about the non-landed groups, say Nighthawk or SCNA? Because they do nude bowling, they do all kinds of nude. Have you experienced anything like that?
Just regular events like the hiking and stuff?
Yeah.
I haven't gone on any hikes because I don't like hiking.
Well, no, but like, for example, if you join the Southern California Naturist Association, they literally have a newsletter full of activities: nude boating, nude bowling, nude ice skating, nude barbecues, nude. So I guess I'm poking you that as a nudist, we really need to get you more social in the lifestyle.
You are poking a little bit.
I'm a poker.
So the issue usually becomes scheduling at this point.
Okay, all right. Well, so let's go back to something I know that you do, the beaches. Have you went to any besides Black's?
San Onofre you mentioned. So I did do that. That was my first nude beach, actually. It's got a lot of rocks there. It's got like a lot of pebbles.
Well, Rocky, you know a lot about being Rocky because it's your name. Let's talk about extreme things, because you represent that. We talked about skydiving and bungee cords. I imagine skiing would be on your plate. What are some things you would like to try naked?
God, I would do anything naked. So like we talked about, I tried to kind of take a lot of my clothes off when I went bungee jumping, and it was not a nude bungee jumping event, so I had to keep bra and panties on. Skydiving is something I've always wanted to do, and I haven't how do you
dove?
I haven't dove out of the sky.
Has it been a bend over?
I haven't gone skydiving at all, so it would be really exciting to do that nude the first time in general. I think that would be really I feel like that would feel like the first time, like, you know what I mean? The bike ride was like the first time the world, that the skies opened up and everything would be.
You know, I'm thinking it would be fun to just have a camera and follow you around trying all these things for the first time.
That would be amazing.
That's interesting. We might have to dive into something like that. I do work a lot with Clothes Free and clothesfree.com. Corky Stanton and those guys have been on this podcast before, and they're great. And I think you would make a great nudes caster. Are you familiar with the website at all?
I am. Clothes Free. Yeah, I've watched a couple of their gardening shows, and they had another topic with what was it, with muscles and stuff like that. It was interesting.
All right, cool. You know, I mentioned skiing in a real quick there. What about like snowboarding versus skiing? Are you into that stuff?
You know, I don't do winter sports. I tried snowboarding once and got so frustrated and never went back.
Okay. Speaking of frustration, how's this traffic? Are we all right on time, you think?
I love driving 10 miles an hour. It's the best.
Didn't you say you would drive naked, or you have drove naked?
Oh, yeah. As often as possible, I take my clothes off. I've been dared. Someone dared me to, like, take my top off, and I was like, what kind of dare is that? Like, it's already off. Like,
you know, in some cities, it's completely legal. Have you been involved in Venice Beach when they do the Top of Freedom?
I have not made it out to that. And there's also some other stuff in Northern California, too. They've got some nude marathons and some other nude protests or topless protests and things. I didn't make it. I think I was working or going to school or something.
Yeah, Gypsy Top does the Love Freedom Parade up there in San Francisco, and they get a permit to do those naked. And you know, there's what's it called, Bear to Breakers, where people run naked.
Yeah.
Well, let me. Okay, I couldn't help but notice you're a woman.
Oh, how could you tell?
So, right, nowadays that line is blurry. I don't know how you identify.
Oh, Lord.
But let's talk about being a woman in the world of nudism, and you're very new to it. Dare I say, a virgin? It sounds like, with a lot of this stuff. So. It's a huge topic to dive into. What are your thoughts right now off the top of your head before I start kind of honing in on it?
As a woman, what are my thoughts?
In nudism, yeah.
In nudism?
Why is it, how is it different from a dude?
Well, I've never been a dude, so I don't know how exactly the psychology on that would work. I know that women are generally more concerned with safety than men are, and it's usually from men. So that would be my main how it would differentiate from the sexes, the genders, off the top of my head.
Well, what has your experience been like? I mean, you mentioned that you are less likely to want to go to an event if you go by yourself, which really surprises me because you're a big girl. You bodybuild and you work out, and you're you even called yourself a masculine girl, right?
Yes, I did earlier.
Yeah.
But so yeah, okay, so I did mention that just because it's kind of hard to go to an event as a single female, and there's two ways it can go. Like, sometimes I'm a little introverted and I have a hard time kind of just mingling and stuff like that, and being alone. It's just being alone is general social anxiety. So that's one part of it. And then the other part, single female part, women don't like to go to these I don't have an issue with this, but I've heard from a lot of other women or men who try to take women who don't go because they get hassled, they are hounded, they get more. Women love attention, but they get more attention than they need, and it can be just like, you know, you're batting people off, and it's like, okay, all right, already, I'm a female, I get it. You know.
Do you find that other women are they more accommodating and want to invite, or are they jealous if you're attractive? Like, they don't want all the guys looking at you instead?
Well, I wasn't exactly saying me. I was saying women in general.
I know, but this is an interview about you, okay, you politician.
In a circumstance where there are more women in the room and there's more attention one way or the other, wait, what kind of room are we in, actually? It depends. No, I don't think that there should be any jealousy. I think that it's pretty open-minded.
Okay, all right. Well, so that's really funny. It's funny because when we did the little pre-show thing, we thought it would be this giant topic.
It was. No, wasn't there more?
Well, it was about your experience, about Me Too.
My experience I didn't even touch on what I wanted to say about that.
Please, yeah.
About being nude in public, because my personal experience has been pretty harmless. I enjoy being naked. What I wanted to say about that is I go to things like nude beaches or nude events with my intention on being naked and doing the activity, right? And when I am talking to somebody who doesn't know about nudism or is not involved or is curious about it, like, hey, I would love to do that, but I don't know, kind of a person, their objection is always, who's going? Who's going to be there? Is it going to be some old perverted guy, or is it going to be, it's always something like that. It's always like, oh, like, are they going to be cute? Or is there old perverted guys there? And it's the wrong intention, I think.
Sure, because I always try to tell people that nudism isn't voyeurs, isn't exhibitionist. Like, I hate that hack line where it's like, the only people that get naked are the people we don't want to see naked. And, the thing is, they're not getting naked to put on a show for you. So, so shut up,
Oh, it grinds my gears, because if you really wanted to be naked, you would get naked. You would come down and get naked, and you would come to the events. If you enjoyed bike riding and you enjoyed nudity, you would do it. There's over 200 of us that get together every year. We recognize each other at this point because we go every year because we love to be nude, and we love to bike ride, and we like to be in the open air, and we're not ashamed of it.
Oh, and I'm sure it all just ends up in a big orgy, right?
It's such a huge... No, we go back to where we started, put our clothes back on.
There you go. That goes into one of the questions I was going to ask you about. Why isn't nudism mainstream? And we were discussing a little bit about,
Yeah, that's sexualizing. So I've been in arguments with usually guys, and I think that has to do with some kind of I don't know what that is with guys that think that. Maybe it's just because they know guys, that they think that guys are going to automatically be perverted, and they think that being nude creates how do you say that? Sexualizing?
Sexualism?
It creates a lust. It creates a lust when a female takes her clothes off. And the argument was, well, when you're attracted to somebody, it's usually parts of their body or the parts of their naked body. But that's not a nudism way of thinking. That's not a naturist way of thinking. If you're natural and you're naturally comfortable, like right now I'm driving in the car, we were out to lunch. We were obviously in regular society with our regular clothing on. I'm wearing a lot of clothing, and most people would think this is just a shirt and a pair of pants. Like, to me, I can feel all the threads all over my body. It's more natural for me to not have them on, no matter what, like whatever I'm doing. And
especially when you go swimming. I mean, don't you hate getting out of a pool and you got this wet stuff hanging on you? It's
don't
so
you
stupid.
hate being in the pool with like fabric on?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Feel the water, like it's on. It's
There's a hot tub in my complex in Las Vegas, and I hate going out there getting in. Like I'm
clothes. Like I live here.
Yeah, and it's just so stupid that we gotta shield everyone's eyes. It's so offensive. In a world where we have parades for everything else, the most basic human nature thing should be we're born naked. You don't look at a cat and say, oh, look, a naked cat. You just say, look, a cat.
And it's funny you mentioned having permit to do these events in public and stuff like that. You have a permit to be natural. It's kind of like how you have to pay extra for them not to put like chemicals in your food, kind of thing.
Yeah,
you gotta pay extra to be natural.
It's just stupid. It's so stupid. I can imagine how you feel about this, but do you want to say anything about top freedom rights? I mean, should women be allowed to be topless wherever men are?
Absolutely. I don't. Go ahead.
Let me just say this, because it grinds my gears. Do you know who are some of the biggest outspoken opponents? Other women.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's image issues. There is self-conscious issues. Women are very oh my God, women are so self-conscious. They what's funny about that too is women will fight against the topless laws, but then they'll fight for breastfeeding in public, which is topless. But they're very self-conscious, and they're very I think that's sort of political. I think that's almost like right and left politics, because I think the people who are voting one way or the other is kind of like kind of political.
In Toronto, which is near the resort that the Stefan, who put together this podcast, the one that he owns, Toronto, it's legal for women to be topless. In New York, women are allowed to be topless. And my buddy Tone Doe is doing another concert in Times Square, and Corky Stanton and I want to put together some women to be around there because they're nude inside with a permit, but the women are allowed to be topless outside. So we want to get some cool nude chicks to hang around outside that are topless. And they don't have to be models, but we just want to remind people that you can be topless and it's totally legal. So anyway, yeah. Well, I'm glad that you agree with that. What about like tattoos and piercings? Do you have any thoughts about that in the nudist community?
I don't know that. I sort of feel the same way about tattoos and piercings as I do about nudism or any other ism. So tattoos and piercings is purely an art form. It is something that people do to feel good about themselves. It's definitely aesthetic. And so if you feel comfortable, you feel confident with a piece of jewelry on a part of your body or a piece of artwork on a part of your body, then you should feel good about it. And there shouldn't be any difference whether or not you have clothes on top of it. You know.
Well, I know that you are a personal trainer. What are you doing? Like, how are you? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. Maybe your answer is nothing. But are you interested in taking a step towards promoting social nudity? And if so, what are some of the things that you want to do? What's Rocky going to do to help move this forward?
So, are you tying this in with personal training?
Well, I was throwing that out there because, I want them to get an idea of, what you do, who you are. If they look you up, how can people get involved in, maybe you're going to be doing nude personal training at a gym. I don't know.
That would be beautiful. The only thing would be to open the conversation of how people feel with no clothing on. A lot of people who are being trained by a trainer are interested in losing weight, and they're not comfortable not wearing clothes anyways, just because they're self-conscious of their weight. That happens a lot, whether or not nudism is involved. So opening the conversation definitely is a big step towards nudism being more mainstream, and just opening your mouth starts the conversation to open your mind. You know what I mean? So it's gonna have to be an open mind situation. Conversation has to go from what is it to judging it to being open to it, to accepting it, and really it just takes experience and leading by example. I'd love to do some segments on your clothes free. And talk about it there. If we have any volunteers that would like to be trained and experiment with nudity, I'd be more than happy to oblige. That would be a beautiful thing. That could really start a whole new chapter.
Cool. What's a good way for people to get a hold of you?
You can reach me. You can reach me through. Instagram is going to be the best way. So it's my handle is the word the THE_Rocky_Fox FOXX.
So that's all once again for the Naturist Living Show. Thank you as always for listening. Again, my name is Stéphane Deschênes, and I'm your host for the show and the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. And I make this show with a lot of help from Samantha Graham. So thank you, Samantha. She makes the task so much easier by producing the show, by doing time-consuming editing, and thanks to the contribution of many of you, she is able to spend more and more time to make the show better and better. So please support her through patreon.com/Naturist Living Show. That's one word. Again, reminder, it's not for me. You're not sending any money for me. You're not supporting Bear Oaks. You're supporting Samantha and the show. You can find links to the items we talked about in the show notes on the website, naturistlivingshow.com. And please keep sending your comments and suggestions. I really appreciate getting them. So the show's email address is contact@naturistlivingshow.com. I hope you enjoy the show and that you'll join us again for the next episode of the Naturist Living Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show was brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Traditional values means that naturism is more than just taking your clothes off. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park strives to promote those naturist values in a modern setting that provides the amenities and services that our members and visitors expect. Free your body, free your mind. Learn more at www.bearoaks.ca.
Grab your agent, grab your manager, pull them by their ears.
Thank you. That's so nice of you. It's... Oh my God. Is this still happening?
She was so excited. She knocked the recorder out of my hand. It was just so, wow. There you go. Well, so we captured that. That was this.
I'm very violent.
I have to hold on to this tighter now. So,